He and his brother spent over 11 years behind bars for a crime they did not commit in Chicago, Illinois. Let's bring on Mr. Juan Johnson. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. What a powerful story. You and your brother, Mr. Henry Johnson, behind bars for a crime you did not commit. This happened back in 1989. But I always start here, sir. Just tell me the young man that you and your brother were. I believe you were 19 years old at the time when all this happened to you. Just what you were doing with your life.
Well, we were both fathers already. Me and my brother are both fathers. We did everything together. Like kids are only like 3 weeks apart from each other, and we're just living life. We did what young people were doing. We had jobs, and we did get mixed up in the street stuff we shouldn't have been mixed up in, but we weren't. We didn't have any records or anything. And we were just having a good time. And the next day, next thing you know, we were locked up for murder.
So I want to make sure I have this story right. There is a fight, and a neighbor or something calls you over to break up this fight, for you and your brother to break up this fight. Y'all break
Yes.
up this fight. You walk away thinking it was a random fight. Nothing happened. You had no idea that somebody actually was killed during this fight. You had no idea. And the next morning, you leave your house and you're picked up and you're put in a lineup. Is that accurate?
Yes. This has all happened at about a block and a half from where I lived at, and that's why they called me to come down there and break up the fight. They figured the guy knew that I knew a lot of people in there. I knew the majority of people in there, and I knew they'd listen to me. It's just drunken silliness. I'm assuming drunken silliness. It could just be just regular silliness, and they were just fighting. And I thought we got it under control. I went right back to the block, stayed out that night in front of my house, sitting on the porch, and went back to bed that night, slept comfortable, came out the next day thinking it was going to be a beautiful day. And then that's when the detective rolled up and asked me to come in for a lineup. And I was shocked that he asked me for a lineup. I was like, I asked him, do I have a choice? And he says, man, just get in the car and get a lineup. And when I was leaning against my car and I set up against my car to walk away because I wasn't going to voluntarily go in for anything. When I took one step out, he jumped out of the car with his weapon and put me in handcuffs and put me in the car. And I wasn't free again.
So you were at the station, and then of course you find out someone is stabbed. You had no idea someone was stabbed and passed
No,
away.
they were beat to death, not stabbed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They were beat to death. And then
Yes.
you're at the station and your brother comes to bail you out. But your brother is detained, Mr. Henry Johnson. He's just coming to bail you out and they detain him. Is that accurate?
Yes, my brother told me that he thought he went down there bail me out because he thought that I had a smart mouth, and he said, I thought you got smart with the cop, and he locked you up for disorder, and he wanted to go like pay a small misdemeanor fine and $50 and let me out. And as soon as he mentioned that they were not looking for him. As soon as he mentioned he was my brother, that was enough to get him locked up, and then all of a sudden he was on the case too.
Hmm. And this happens
And
in September of 1989. And this is just so scary because I'm from West Philadelphia. So many of us have just been on the block, just chilling. Something happens, you walk away, and it's just this idea that you're just living life a block away from your house. And the next morning, all these things happen to you. So you and your brother are behind bars. And there's also a really I believe it was a detective or a police officer that has a horrible record, and he's wrongfully, got other people behind bars. But tell me what y'all are going through as you're being interrogated, as you're being grilled by police, knowing that you didn't do anything wrong.
well, I can speak on what I was going through. At first I was just so confused. I didn't understand it. And you got to understand, at first we still don't even know. We don't know. I don't think I know for the whole first day that it was first degree murder. They just keep asking questions about the the fight last night. What happened in the fight? We know you were there. You know you're there." And I didn't have nothing to hide. Yeah, I was there. I was actually trying to do something good and trying to stop the fight from happening. I thought I did a good job in getting it under control. And it didn't come out later on that it was first degree murder. He said, and he didn't even say first degree murder. He said, "We got you for the big one." I'm like, "The big what?" And anyone who knows me knows that I got a smart ass mouth. So I was like, "The big what? The big drug case? The big what?" And he told me, "No, I got you for first degree murder." Who the hell I killed? And that's when they told me that one of them guys got killed the night before. I was like, and I said, "You BSing me. You BSing me. Ain't no one died last night. Ain't no one died last night." But apparently they did. I didn't know exactly
Thank-
how bad it was until years later when I don't know. I don't know if you want to jump ahead of the story to that part. I didn't find out this how bad I was hooked up until later on when testimony came out from all these witnesses, and then using police own reports of their, I guess they call their books where they write their notes down. Because the guy who locked me up was not a homicide detective; he was a gang detective.
Detective Ronaldo Guevara. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, yeah, Ronaldo Guevara. And this cop already has over 30, I think it's 33 now, but it's over 30 for sure. Convictions already overturned. He's been cited by multiple judges. The the FBI has been trying to find some way to put him in jail for this. His former partner is a guy named Mezanowski, and he's actually in the federal penitentiary right now, being paid off by other drug dealers to put people in jail, and people were selling his drugs. He was a drug dealer, his partner, but they couldn't get Ronaldo Rivera.
Mr. Johnson, do you know how your name even got caught up in this, or was this detective just driving around, saw you outside? Do you even know how they decide to target you?
Ronaldo Rivera and me have history with each other. That's why as soon as I seen him, I was like I said, I was alert, but I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. He's a gang detective. So I just figured he was coming around just for that type of stuff. But he has a history because I knew his well, we used to call it his stepson, but it turned out it wasn't his stepson. He was just dating the guy's mother for a long time. Me and that guy was friends, and he hated me for a long time. Again, he figured I should have respect for the badge, and I had a smart mouth, but I had a smart mouth with everybody. That's the way I joke around. I just have a dark sense of humor. So we already had history with each other. I didn't know later on how he decided on me. I'm just assuming that he just always had a grudge on me. I don't know this for a fact. I don't know his reasons. He never spoke about it. But I do know that it came out later on that the original detective that was assigned to homicide that night, because we got the notes later on appeal, because my lawyer didn't do his job on the direct case. On appeal, we got the original homicide lawyers, and the same witnesses they used against me in trial originally told the homicide detective that the guys who did the case was 5'7" to 5'9", light-skinned Hispanic males. If you see me, you don't know that I'm half Puerto Rican. You'll think I'm just African American, and I'm not no 5'7" to 5. I was at the time I'm 6'1", and I always been a fat guy. I always been over 300 pounds even back then. So how do I fit the description? How do you tell the homicide detective that these are the people, and then later on, after you meet with Rivera, 3 hours later, all of a sudden you change the description?
It's really just a terrifying story that clearly, allegedly, reportedly, he just was using his power to put you behind bars, which is just despicable. And so you and your brother, it takes 2 years for a trial, from 89 to 91. The trial doesn't happen until September of 1991. So you're waiting behind bars for 2 years. What was that trial like? I mean, there's no physical evidence. I mean, how in
We
their world were they able to, according to what you were seeing, make sure that you were wrongfully convicted?
we really thought there was no way we would get found guilty in here. I was so certain. That's why at the time we actually our lawyer at the time, Richard J. Kagan, actually decided to tell us to take a bench trial because he's like, there's no way at all a judge is going to find you guilty of this. He could see all these different loopholes to change the testimony. He advised us to take a bench trial. We didn't take a jury trial, and that judge, our fate was in that judge's hands, and that judge just decided, hey, these were some punk kids, and he didn't listen to the evidence. He just found us guilty just off of our looks because there was nothing in trial. The most, if you go through the transcripts, the most they said is the guy looked like. That's it. Looked like him, but they didn't question him about his change of description or anything like that. There's no way that we should have been found guilty. It wasn't. My lawyer didn't do his job at the time, but I would not like to even blame the original lawyer. There was enough there that the prosecutor should have saw this is not right. But
Why do you
when you're,
think why do you think they refused to see it? Do you think that they wanted to get two black kids from Chicago, just lock them up no matter what?
I think that's the only thing that they saw was a poor black kid from Chicago, and he doesn't matter. Who cares? Who cares about his life? Who cares about what happens in the future? Who cares? They didn't care because there was enough wrong. If this is what they studied, this is what their livelihoods are. To be a judge, to be like I said, even a prosecutor, they know something was wrong. When they found us guilty in '91, the judge actually took like almost 8 months to sentence us, and that's not unheard of. We brought new lawyers on. That's when I brought Daniel Storr on to do our sentencing and our post conviction from that point on. And the judge, we thought the judge was going to reverse itself because he's seen that this was the egregious decision he made. But he found a way to justify it and send us back to the penitentiary, send us to the penitentiary.
And you were charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to 30 years behind bars. When you hear that sentence, what goes through your heart and your soul?
Well, you get the found guilty part first, and I was shocked when they put me away and took me away in handcuffs. Because both of us were out on bond. When they took us away in handcuffs, I totally lost it. I'm not a person who shows a lot of emotion, and I don't, and just felt empty, scared, confused, and understand what was going on right there. When they actually gave us the sentence 8 months later of the 30 years, for a person at that age, we're thinking that's like a life term. I'm thinking 30 years in the penitentiary. Oh my God. And then you hear all these stories about how the penitentiary is. I'm like, we're not surviving this. Our life is over. Our life is over. And now we just gotta hope that we can find a way to be together because not only we're losing our family, we might lose each other. We might be separated. We gotta go through this alone. All these different things were going through our mind, and I'd like to think I was a brave person, but there was nothing but fear going through me.
Mm. And especially knowing that you didn't commit this crime. That's just.
You
And
hear the stories from other people, and other people they like to joke about it in TVs. They want to joke about it in the movies. Oh, everyone in jail. But guess what? There's a lot of people who are innocent. There's a
that's
lot of people who are innocent, and they even right now there's a system set up to keep protecting these crooked cops instead of doing what's right. Instead of trying to find the person who actually did the murders, instead of suspending, firing, whatever the cops whenever they do even the slightly infractions, so they don't get to the point where they're actually framing people. I can't
were
believe
you
they're
and your
still
brother
fighting this man.
right? Were you and your brother separated when you went to prison to the penitentiary?
Oh, we the closest we came is the one night that was one of the scariest nights ever when we go to a Jolly 8 intake. That's where when you leave Cook County Jail, when you go to penitentiary, they send you to the Department of Corrections Joliet prison, and they tell you what penitentiary they're going to send you to. And they put they put a bag in front of your door at night, and it will say numbers on there. And this is all when, like, everything I'm telling you, we're learning as we're going. Other people are yelling off of their cells that this is what that means, this is what that means. And they put K3 in front of my brother, and they didn't put no bag in front of my cell. And I'm like, what did that mean? That means he's leaving and I'm not leaving. I gotta wait the next week, and where am I gonna go? So we're confused. They're confused the whole night for like 3 4 hours with no bag in front of my thing. And my brother's got his K3, and I'm trying to talk to the sergeants, and I'm like, man, can you keep me and my brother together? Can you keep me and my brother together? And he's like, I had nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have nothing to do with it. And I was like, and I have no bag. And then for 30 minutes before that bus came, and they put a bag in front of my door and said K3. So I didn't know anything about K3. Someone said it was Stateville Penitentiary, but the only thing I knew was I was going to be with my brother. And at that moment, there was a little bit of, I knew at least I was going to go through this with him. We're going to go to the first penitentiary together. And then we arrived there, and the first day we were there, they were on lockdown for someone in the penitentiary that got killed.
I heard that somebody got killed, somebody got stabbed, right, in the penitentiary. You're in lockdown for 3 months, and then when you're out of lockdown, there's another incident within an hour. Is that accurate?
Yes, that happened constantly in Stateville from '92 really on. It just, the moment we hit the penitentiary, was constantly on lockdown for either a murder, a stabbing, someone getting hit with a hatchet, somebody being burnt with hot oil. There's always was something going on in there, and you don't
11
hear about it
years,
on the news.
right. How were you said the word survive when you told me you heard that 30 years. I'm sure there must have been some rough times in there. How were you and your brother surviving the day by day?
We both had the mentality is don't think about home, don't think about going home, think about surviving, because we've seen enough people in there will lose their mind, where constantly their body is in the penitentiary, but their mind is in the street, and they just lose their mind. So all we want to do is survive, and we had to do anything that took to survive. And the main thing is just show strength, make allies, try to avoid as much trouble as you can, but don't run away from anything. You can't just let someone punk you out or think you're soft. And we guys we functioned on that, and after that, I functioned on going to school and getting educated in there. And my brother was at that time in the penitentiary, in the maximum security pension. He didn't really focus on education, just straight as an electrician.
Hmm. How was your mother? How was your family impacted by this? I always say it's not just the people who are wrongfully convicted, it's the family as well.
My mother, to this day, I don't think my mother ever came back. It put so much burden on her because were her two boys. She lost two of her sons the same day, and she's never ever been the same. She's My mother doesn't drive, and she bought a van and used to pay people to drive her. I get emotional here. She used to pay people to drive her to come see us, hours and hours away. Even if we begged her, don't, she would. She couldn't afford it. She'll keep the temperature in the house cold as hell. Just keep the bills down. Just so she could keep her phone on so we could call her once a month.
Wow. That's a good mom. Wow. Yeah.
We didn't even know the extent how hard she was suffering until we came home. She hit it all. We didn't know anything from in there. She in front of her, she would just, oh, everything's fine. I have it under control. And I'm making ends meet.
Mm. Yeah.
That's why I just she did the time with us.
Mm.
She was right there, and my daughter, Henry's daughter, Henry's son, she was bringing them on visits regular basis. When Henry's wife left him because it was too hard to go keep going through that, she was still coming with my daughter. When my life left, she still just came with just my daughter. When my wife left, she just keeping my daughter, bringing her, because she know that was keeping us. That was keeping some of us, a part of us, to be human still. We're still having affection and emotion because the visits, the seeing her, the seeing the kids. As soon as we left there, we had to be cold. We couldn't show emotion.
Mm. Because that could mean danger.
No, you just got to be prepared for everything. You really do
Right.
have to be prepared for everything. I don't know. One time I was on the phone with my mother when I was in F house in Stateville, and this is how you get used to the violence. I'm on the phone with her, and I'm looking down from two gallery down to one gallery, and I see a person walk behind somebody else, grab him, and another guy comes from the side and hit him in the back of the head. And instead of me feeling any emotion for that man, the first thing I told my mom was, "Hey, mommy, I love you. I'm gonna go take a shower because we're about to get locked in for the night." Because I knew as soon as they find that guy's body, we're gonna go on lockdown again. So I wanted to make sure I take my shower. That's not was my only emotion, my only fear. Had nothing to do with me. So let me just get my shower.
Mm. Yeah, these, I mean, it's
We take
just,
a lot of things for granted out here. And a simple shower is a luxury. You're on the lockdown for months at a time and you're forced to take bird baths out of your sink because they don't let you out to shower. But yeah, after you're on there for 30 days, they'll let you out once a week. After you're on there for 30 days, once a week. So if you're a person that thinks about hygiene, you got to wash up in yourself. You got to wash up in yourself. You're
mhm.
taking bird baths out of a sink just to stay clean.
So it gets really complicated because you and your brother are released after investigations, and they're finding out that y'all have been, well, I shouldn't, I mean, it's clear y'all have been wrongfully convicted. So as you're waiting for a second trial, you and your brother, again, Mr. Henry Johnson, y'all are offered a plea deal, and you decide to not take the plea deal. And your brother, which totally makes sense, he decides to take it because he doesn't want to deal with, at this point, I'm sure there's so much mistrust in this system. Just, I want to be out. I want to be out. And the plea deal allows your brother to be out and don't have to wait for another trial. So he pleads guilty, but you didn't. And it results in this person being investigated. And do I have this right? Was there an actual trial that you had to? Did you go through the second trial?
Yes, I went through the whole second trial with the jury.
And you were found innocent, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Um.
But I don't want to jump ahead there because right before we
oh,
overturned our case and let us go, there was this is another problem with the system. My lawyer, Daniel Storr, put these briefs in. We are fighting this case. The appellate court accepted our case within a year in being in the penitentiary. They accepted it. They seen that something was wrong with this case. They don't accept a lot of cases. They accepted the case within the first year. And it took still took over 11 years to come home. And on top of that, the last brief that he filed, the judge denied it. So on our last relief, the same brief that he filed that they denied, a big firm came in called Jenner and Block. They don't even do criminal law. They do like copyright infringements, like IBM against the railroad or whatever. Like this is $1 billion law firm called Jenner and Block. They do pro bono cases. They came on our case. They kept him on our case, and they put the same exact brief in, word to word, but just with their name on it. And because they were a prestigious firm, they listened to it and they overturned our case. So that shows me again, without money, without influence, you're nothing in the system, the criminal justice system.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's terrible. And even when I cover these stories, Mr. Johnson, I just think of, even you and your brother waiting 2 years for a trial. 2 years for a trial. That's inhumane, right? What happened to the right to a speedy trial? I mean, this system is just so um just vile and cruel. And and you're right, once you have money, you could almost get away with anything. Look at our
Like,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, you about to talk about what's going on currently. It's all it takes is
Yeah, I was
money.
gonna say, look at
That
our
money
previous.
get away with everything. Yeah.
Exactly. Uh, so
Right now,
thankfully,
during the 2 years when we were waiting, the thing is, even when they let us out, it's all designed that way. Let them out. They knew that they still know that the case is bogus. They still know the case is wrong. But instead of trying to do justice, they're still trying to do damage control. So they want us to come out. They want you to be free and start being with your family. They want you to get jobs and move on with your life. And they did, and we went right into that. We started moving on with our lives. We started working as soon as we were home and moving on with our life. And then then they come up last minute and give us a matter of minutes to make a life altering choice
yeah,
decision. And it was so much emotion going on in the middle of 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. It's hard to trust the system who already did you wrong. It's hard to trust that system. My brother did exactly what I wanted to do. I just couldn't. I wanted to take time served also. People think, oh, I would not plead guilty for something I didn't do. If you've been through it, if you walk through hell, you don't want to go back. And someone is offering you a lifeline that you don't never, for certain, you do not have to go back. Why would you not take that lifeline? Would you trust the same system who already did you wrong?
hell no,
This same system who already took you away from your family, and you're going to trust them again?
no.
The only thing that saved me is two things. My daughters told me, Pop, I know the way you are. This is going to eat up at you if you do this. So if you make a decision to fight it or don't fight it, make it on your own. Don't make it up for me.
But I do want to say you were officially exonerated November 8th, 2002. Um, how is your brother doing?
My brother, for many years and still to this day, it still eats at him that decision. I finally convinced him to fight and try to clear his name. He regrets that decision. I told him he made the best choice at the time. It's easy to change your mind now because other people are putting influence on you. At that time, you made the right decision. You can't look back years later. And people are telling him he made the wrong choice or putting pressure on him for making that choice only because of the compensation. But if your life on the line, you're not thinking about compensation. And like I said, either way it go, like I said, I was compensated. I know you don't want to hear the amounts or anything, but I gave my brother $1 million to save him, even though I still gave him $1 million.
Hmm. Well, man, just sending all the light and good energy to you and your family, to your brother. I know he doesn't. If folks are wondering, I know your brother doesn't feel comfortable speaking out, considering what he's been through, and I totally get it. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody to go deep about these stories.